You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
And we've got Shannon Gallagher joining us again.
Hello again. Welcome.
We're gonna have to get something for you, like Shannon from Mesa or whatever. Maybe just Shannon.
It's a wild card.
Yeah. Well, the good news, we got Shannon back because he got hornswoggled, hijacked. What else?
Bamboozled.
Bamboozled, Shanghaied
Bamboozled.
into actually competing in this program or the model masters that we were talking about on a previous podcast, and kind of walk us through what happened.
Well, I hosted. We were going to have, all the stuff going on with it, and one of the guys who's running it said, "Hey, let's Shannon's going to compete this year." He just kind of, out of the blue. Shannon's going to compete this year. I'm like, I am, and
UMX, here we
not
go.
to walk away from a challenge. I figured, okay, I better be nice. So the plane I was going to compete with, if I was at the time, was my big grasshopper that crashed a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
And I just love grasshoppers and cubs. Everyone's got a cub, right?
everybody's
got a cub in
I
their,
think
in their,
so.
in their
In this
hangar,
group.
pretty much.
Yeah, in this
So
group.
I had to kind of scramble, and there's a guy named Bobby. I don't know if you know him, Mike. He was at the event. We'll talk about later, but I didn't know he was there until I saw him on Sunday when I went and picked up the airplane that I put together and maidened.
Oh, gotcha.
Got 3 flights in. So here's my plane. This is what I'm flying in Scale Masters.
Oh, look at that.
The little Hobby King Cub
Yeah,
in the Navy scheme.
Navy scheme. That's
And
I thought
it's,
you were going to go with the UMX Cub or something.
that's what I would have done.
It's not far from that, but for less than $200, I got a plane. And I'm just doing it in Sportsman. I'm not doing all the big expert pro-ams. Like, I'm just
Sure.
gonna go in there for Sportsman pro-am and have some fun. So, but Tim Dickey kind of threw me under the bus. He's like, "No, Shannon's competing this year." I'm like, "Who told you that?" So,
Well, that's unfortunate. I wish I was not working, because I would probably throw my hat in the ring and at least just grab something that was Sportsman and just take it with me, because I've got a couple of ARFs that might look good. Yeah, and you saw one actually when I finished building it. We
yeah,
we
it's
got to
beautiful.
go. Shannon and I were at the Warbirds, Arizona Warbirds and Classics event, and got to Maiden Mile 39 turbine out there. I think I posted some pictures on Facebook, and Shannon came out and he flew, and we had a really good time. It was a really, really
We
good
had
time.
a blast, and Harry from California joined us, and
Sure did.
love hanging out with Harry. He's a hoot,
Yeah.
and all the guys. Everyone was, I always have a good time there. So huge turnout, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was well over 100 pilots.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that.
It's funny. They were trying to pick up the 1/8th Air Force again, and he originally, when he was way back at Winter Warbirds when we were there, he was talking about it, and he's like, "I'm going to do this event." They kind of talked us into it, and his wife, it's her birthday weekend, and she's like, I miss having all the guys around for my birthday party. And so anyway, she said,
That sounds interesting.
yeah, I know, right? She said, hey, let's do it again. Let's kind of revive it. So we did, and he only expected like 20 or 30 people to kind of show, and had well over 100. I think he was close to 110 or 115 pilots. So he was kind of scrambling there at the last second, because they had offered to buy basically a filet mignon dinner for everybody, and expecting it to be a small crowd, and it turned out to be this huge, crowd, and everybody wanted to bring, a guest, and so it was like, oh my gosh, they turned into it. But they did a good job, and they grilled all of it right there. I think some of the 1/8 Air Force guys volunteered, and Tony Quist was out there cooking steaks and serving. So it was really good. It was a great time. We had a little bit of a auction afterwards, and I actually won a Demon Cortex Pro. I put my name in the hat on one of the auction items and got that. But they had some really nice airframes and a bunch of nice radios that went. And yeah, everybody got a chance to bid, and then they handed out the awards and bunch of awards, a ton of awards. So I think Barry got one.
I wonder how many guys, like, oh, I'm not gonna go. I don't want to go to the steak. Are you kidding me? Filet? I'm going.
I don't know because the steak dinner part was extra. Like Shannon, I don't think Shannon didn't stay for the steak dinner.
I didn't
Unfortunately.
stay for it. Yeah.
But the event was one price, and then if you wanted the steak dinner, you ponied up enough to cover
Money.
kind of
Yeah.
It wasn't quite what they served. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it was
get it.
only
I
like
get it.
$30 or $40, but it was a pretty big fillet, potatoes and salads and desserts and that kind of thing. So I'm sure they spent more than the $40 per person, but it was nice. It was a good dinner. They had a chicken dinner the night before, and they ordered all these roasted chickens. And Barry and I were out doing some. He was taking some photos, and we were out helping him and doing some stuff. And there was a guy that was flying, so we were out spotting for him. And then at the very last second, Barry and I walked up at the very end. They literally just took a chicken, whacked it in half, and then gave him half and me half. I was like, I can't eat half a chicken, but they were trying to get rid of it. And so after everybody, they were walking around with these whole chickens, giving them to people. So, what are we going to do with these? So it was pretty funny.
I
But
put some servos in one and flew it. It was kind of cool.
yeah, there you go. Flying chicken. But there were some great airplanes. Harry brought his Corsair, and it flew great. He brought his P-51, and it didn't get to fly. But they had some World War I gaggles that were amazing. I was really surprised how many World War I guys brought their triplanes and the Fokker D1s and
But that was awesome.
the Jennies. And yeah, they had a third scale Jenny that was, I mean, a Jenny's not really big to begin with, full scale, but this third scale was, like huge. And
I remember playing was it Red Baron at my computer. I bet it would be even better to be, in the presence of all those planes, watching that happen, with the rat-a-tat-tat in the background.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Well, Barry Hendricks took a bunch of photos of my airplane, and then he just kind of shot 10,000 photos or whatever with his new camera get up. But he's posted a bunch on Facebook, so I'll grab his page and dump some over on ours so that you can kind of see, because some of those airplanes are really amazing. The Comp Arf guys were out there with the F-100 and MiG, or actually it was an Su-27, I think is what it was. The one that he hovered in front of everybody. It was
that was
crazy.
Sweet.
They had
Cobra maneuver.
Yep, Cobra maneuver. They had Spencer was out there with his F-16. Barry had his F-18. So there were a lot of really, really, really good airplanes, and we only had 2 major incidences to speak of, which is really lucky for as windy and crazy as everybody was flying out there, because we had 6 pilots up at a time, and for that field, that's a lot, I mean, in that close proximity. And we had 2 kids that were flying out there too, so that was pretty exciting. The one kid was flying everything under the sun, from a little foamy up to a turbine jet, and the other 2 kids were fairly new, and they were flying, just they were flying just the regular foamy stuff. But it was a fun time. We had great time hanging out. Shannon showed up and brought his stuff. He got to fly his little L-39 and your F4.
F4, yeah, I flew that a couple times. Yeah.
So we had a we had a gaggle. So they said, "Hey, we're going to do a foamy gaggle or whatever." And so everybody ran up there. And so I took my little blue L-39 that I normally fly, and Shannon and I were up there standing next to each other, and we took off and we're out there flying. Of course, EDFs, you only have 3.5 minutes. But there were other guys that had like T-28s and a couple other things that last way longer. So Shannon's yelling, "Hey, I got to land." And the guy's like, yeah, I'm coming in to land right now. And he comes in, and Shannon's like, "I'm right behind you." And then he goes around. So Shannon had gone around, to let this guy did a gear pass, and the guy bolsters, doesn't land. He just keeps on. He just makes another circle, like, "Oh, I'm going to go do it again." And Shannon's like, "Get off the run, get away, get away." So I'm yelling at him because I touched down in between them and rolled off the runway, and then this guy touches down, and Shannon's on the downwind to come back around, and he's like, "Get off the runway! I'm coming in. I can't fly any longer." I mean, his battery is about to die, and he's just told me that would be the crier for him, right? If that airplane got destroyed, that would be the one
Yeah,
he would
because I
smell.
love that plane. They don't make it anymore.
Right, right.
I know there's one or two of people that have one. I could probably throw some enough money that they'd give it to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a sweet flying plane.
But
And
you did get it on the ground despite the guy was
oh
in the
yeah,
middle of the runway, and I was vectoring him on the runway because he was looking one direction and the other guy was trying to turn around and taxi back, and I'm like, okay, stay to the far side of the runway. All right, here he comes. As soon as you look to the right, you're going to see him. But he did a good job, and it got back in one piece, so we're happy about that.
that's right.
And then what else happened? I think the two incidences was a big third scale P-47. The guy had got it from an estate sale, put it back together. It was somebody that was part of the 1/8th Air Force, and he had passed, and so this guy had purchased it, and they put it together, and they were spending all day for 2 days putting this thing and getting it all trimmed or ready to go, and he flew it, and we're not really quite sure what happened, but it got away from him the first time, and then he actually turned and based the final. It departed controlled flight and went right into the ground. It made a huge noise. I mean, I was shocked at how big of a boom that thing made hitting the ground, and balsa wood just exploded. So I think that one's pretty much done. And then the last day, just before the dinner, were you there for the F-16, Shannon, or did you leave right before then?
I think right before it, I don't remember what was happening.
Yeah, so Shannon bid adieu to everyone and kind of bolted out of there, and everybody's kind of putting stuff away for the night and getting ready for this steak dinner and the award ceremony and everything. And one of the guys from Colorado decided to go fly his F-16. So there was a F-16 sitting right in front of us next to that Mirage. So he had like a
Mhm.
Mirage and then that gray F-16. Yeah, he took off and he did a split. He went up into a loop or something. He did another thing and got up there and did a split S. And when he started to come down full throttle, and he runs like a 190 turbine because he lives in Denver, so it's a lot higher altitude. So down here, that thing was smoking fast, right? And so he comes
Mhm.
down out of the split S and he just pulled really hard. And when he did, it snapped and then just went 1, 2, boom, put a 3-foot hole in the ground and made this big mushroom cloud like you see on YouTube, from like
Oh
it was
wow.
it was spectacular. I mean, and he
Oh
was
my
standing there
gosh.
watching it, and so it was a really,
Bummer.
really bad. So those were the two incidences that we had, and he doesn't really he thinks something let loose on it. I personally, when we were talking about it later, I said I just think you were too fast. You pulled too hard because he was coming at the ground so fast. I think he just over exaggerated it, and the airplane just broke the wings loose because it actually spun twice. I mean, it rotated twice, which to me is a snap roll. So I think he snapped it into the ground and just never got it turned. But it hit the ground doing full throttle. I felt really bad. There was
That really
Oh my
nothing
sucks.
left.
gosh.
Yeah.
Actually, he found the turbine. When it hit, it ejected the turbine right out of it took the bolts right out of the wood and threw it about 20 feet. And he walked around over there and found it. And it's got the cage on the front, for the, what do they call that?
Intake.
Well, it's not in front of the intake. There's a little FOD detect. It's a FOD screen to keep stuff from
Broad
going
screen, yeah.
into it's got a little screen dome on it, and it was all mangled. But I don't know. It didn't look like the rest of the turbine was still turning. So yeah, I mean, you could turn it with your hands, but I'm sure there's some inner parts that kind of got rattled loose. So he's going to send it in, see if he can get it fixed. And then he started talking about getting a bigger F-16. So I was like, oh, at least he's positive about it because, once again, Shannon and I would have been over there bawling.
Oh man, I'd be like,
sad.
there
Oh.
goes, because I probably would have had a note on it or something.
Yeah, no doubt. Exactly. But anyway, it was a great time. We really had a good time. And then
Yeah.
fortunately, my work schedule worked out where I actually had a trip. And sure enough, I wound up with a pretty long overnight in Austin, Texas. So I made a quick phone call and said, hey, buddy, well, let's come get me.
That's
So
right.
And I
Two
Jay,
said
o'clock in the
no.
morning.
And I said no. That's too many hours for me to drive. So Jay went and got him
so Jay
instead.
went and got me instead of Mike. Yeah,
Okay.
I tried to get Mike to come
Yeah, I
get
was
me.
like,
But
I'm not driving that far to pick you up,
nope,
Mike.
nope.
4 hours, forget
I
it.
know. So
Promised
yeah,
me
it
a
was
steak
kind
dinner.
of cool. I didn't get we didn't get a steak dinner. We got lasagna dinner instead, but which was great. So anyway, yeah, I wound up in Austin on an overnight, and it was late. We did get there late. Typical Murphy's Law. Everything was going my way until the very last, and then I was like texting Jay, going, "You got to believe, you're not gonna believe this. The airplane's broke. The people are late. The flight attendants are late, and I'm gonna get there as soon as possible." So I kind of rolled down right around midnight, I think, and Jay was
Ish.
nice enough to come get me. Yeah. So we made it back to your place to look at your new plane.
Yeah, that's right. So it's this was what I call a hyper visit because
It was.
it was just pure 12 hours of us trying to get stuff done. And
Yeah.
as Mike was saying, the Murphy was riding right along next to us. He was co-pilot for the whole thing from his trip, like you said, for the trip in to when he got here. So I just had left two things that had to be done to my plane. It being the Bison XT from Motion, it's had everything all hooked up, ready to go, except for the receiver, and I didn't have the slats hooked up. And so, we Mike had been kind enough to bring a receiver for me to use, and we slapped that in the plane, and that pretty much didn't give us any trouble until the next morning. We didn't get the S3 figured out and all sorted out, but anyway, we still had a receiver. We knew we could still fly the plane. The second thing was, like I said, for those slats and flaps, I took the control horns off of them, so adjust everything, get everything to fit, and I was going to put them back in, and so it had two. It's a metal geared servo, so it has you have to screw the heads back in. So guess where I couldn't find? I couldn't find those stupid screws, and I threw them back into the bag that they originally came with all the extra screws. So it's a huge bag with all these screws, and that bag just disappeared because I cleaned up my front desk and the areas we're going to work. I cleaned up everything for Mike to come in, and I have no idea where that stuff went. Just disappeared.
I think it's over here.
It could be, and that wouldn't surprise me if you just pulled out. Where'd this bag come from? Gremlins, whatever.
It had the wing bolts in it too.
Yeah, it had the wing bolts in it as well. So
Mhm.
so anyway, as I'm searching for those bolts, through the night, Mike went to bed and I stayed up looking for the bag and bolts, and I couldn't find them, and I'm panicking. And the next morning, Mike gets up before me, and like he had figured out the radio, and I mean for the receiver and all that kind of stuff. I woke up, oh, what a fright! Oh, we got to go flying. Well, look, it was raining in the morning, so we didn't get straight up to go fly. So I made breakfast, calmly went back in the room, figured everything would show up, and it did not. So then it started brainstorming to figure out how we're going to get this plane to fly with these crucial parts missing. And luckily, there was another bag of stuff, and this is actually for AK. Mike had bought me for my birthday. He had bought me the float set that goes with the plane, and the plane happened to have a bunch of bolts that, lo and behold, could be used as the wing bolts. So
fit
I took some
perfect.
of those. They fit. Put them in. Now, as for putting
I
back,
planned that.
yeah, that's all me. I knew that was going to happen. As for the servo heads I put back on the, tighten down those, looked all through my spare bolts, nuts, couldn't find anything. So
Yeah. It
they
was a
fit on
weird
there fairly
size.
tightly. And I just went ahead and took some hot glue on top of them, let them sit in there, set up. And whenever I find the bolts, all you have to do is pour rubbing alcohol on top of hot glue and it instantly releases. So, and I've been flying it for, let's say I went out the other day and flew it when Mike was here, and they're still holding on there. Nothing's busted off, falling out of the sky. Flaps haven't gone all wonky. So it seems
So
to be
yeah,
working
just
from the time
a
being.
disclaimer on that is that we made sure that there were no control surfaces that would affect it. We put them on the flaps because if they fell off the flaps get pushed up anyway by the air flow. So I was like, don't take them out of the ailerons or whatever, thinking that that'll be a better solution. It won't. So we left all the
No,
major
no, no, no.
control surfaces. And Mike told me as soon as you get there, put the batteries on. And what do you think happened? I totally forgot. And so luckily it was raining in the morning. So when we walked in there, Jay put it in there and started charging batteries. And I was like, dang it, Mike told me to put those on last night and I forgot. However,
That's always the thing that catches us. So it's like,
it
let's
is.
go. Oh, I haven't charged batteries yet.
Oh,
Ah.
exactly. So yeah, it was funny because he put the battery on and we were doing a bunch of stuff and I looked over and I was like, what the heck, man? This thing is only like it started at 17% and now it's only at like 19%. And I'm like, this is a 6 cell. It's going to take like a week to charge the battery. What are you charging it on? So I went into his little, charger thing and I was like, oh, well, no wonder you're charging it on like a half a C or something. This is a big 6,000 milliamp battery. So I put it on high power and pumped it up. I'm like, dude, I can charge this in 20 minutes if we just push it. So I did. I stuck it on the high power and got it all charged. He had one already charged. And so we fit the battery, got everything disassembled, stuck in the car. The weather cleared out, but the wind
picked up.
was
As
terrible.
soon as rain stopped, but the wind picked up.
Yeah. And Jay got us out to the field. So first impressions there, Jay. We took it out and would keep going there.
Let's see. So yeah, got the plane all assembled. Got out there. The wind. My field, has a particular pattern, and that is 360 degrees. The wind just blows around at 360 degrees when the wind starts blowing. So we Mike went ahead and he maidened it, and for the first so for the first battery that we did, it was just a regular 500 milliamp 6 cell.
5,000 milliamp.
5,000, excuse me. And we went ahead and flew that one, and the plane felt heavy. It looked like it flew heavy. Mike had to put a lot of back pressure on the plane, to keep it flying level. Even though we trimmed it out and everything, he trimmed it out, but it was still flying kind of heavyish. So he landed, and I'm like, okay, well, let's push the battery back a little bit. Push the battery back. It flew better, and then I'm like, okay, let's push the battery back a little bit more. But the way in the battery bay, they put the two straps, for you to latch it down with. By the time we pushed it back, the front of the battery was about even with that forward strap, right? So it wasn't holding on to anything really really meaty or grippy where the second one was doing all the work. So I have one of those not sticky pads. What are the shelf paper? I have shelf paper, the stuff that grips on the bottom of my. I glued that to the bottom of the bay.
Tray.
So when you put the battery on there and strap it down, it grips right to it. Works great. I've done that in the jets. Never had any problem with that. So we strap it down. We're like, okay, that's good. Mike guns it, takes right off, just a foot or two. And then he's like, yeah, this is this might be something's a problem. That may be back a little far. And I'm like, really? And he's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, well, land it. He goes, yeah, I'm attempting to. So I knew something was up because Mike wasn't really long in the witty, reports back to me. It was just real short, and he was concentrating on flying. And lo and behold, he got it back around, landed it back on the field, made it look easy. And I'm like, yeah, well, it does, how bad could this be? And I look in the cockpit and I go, oh, well, there's your problem, And that battery had slid off that first one, and it went all the way back to the tail. It was sitting all the way
literally
back to the
sitting
tail.
In the tail.
And it was
Oh my
and it
gosh.
couldn't go back any further because the tail narrowed where the battery couldn't fit through there. That's the only thing that
The
stopped.
matter of fact, the battery was totally gone. When we looked in there, I went, yeah. Jay goes, well, there's your problem. You got no battery. I was like, holy crap. But when I gunned it the first time to get off the ground, I think it jumped forward, and I think it took that battery and just slid it all the way to the back. So it was already at the back, because when I went to go rotate, I never even had to pull the stick back. It just stood right on its tail. And I gassed it and pushed full forward stick, and it was climbing at it about 90 degrees straight up almost. And I was like, okay. And so I put some flaps in it. It actually lowered the nose enough that I got it going forward. And I just kept the takeoff flaps in it, and I just kind of had full forward stick, and I just used the power to just kind of get it to come
you
around.
Had flaps to help you.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was lucky. So, because I thought for sure, I was just in my head. I didn't want to say anything, but I thought for sure. I was like, oh man, this is going to be devastating. We made in this thing and just put it right in the ground, But we figured that out, and we got back. We readjusted it. We got a little bit bigger battery. He's got a 5500.
5500, yeah.
And and we threw that in there, and that seemed to kind of hold everything together. It was too fat to slide any further back. So
right, and the wind had kicked up too.
Yeah.
Is there some things that you could tell motion to change that would help that? Like, is there something they could have done that would have made that better or less possible to do that?
Well, okay, so the
Uh,
plane yeah, I was gonna say the plane comes with the option that you could fly it with a 6 cell or a 4 cell, and
or
I'm
4.
leaning towards going with the 4 cell. Now, they give you 2 props to fly with the plane. They give for the 6 cell, they give you a 15.8, and then they give you a 1610 or yeah, I think it's a 1610 or so to fly it with the 4 cell. But one of the folks who was reviewing the aircraft that I saw, they've actually put a watt meter on there and they tested out what you get out of because they don't give you any reference to how big the motor is or what the motor is doing or what is pumping out or anything. So the guy went ahead and put a watt meter on for the 6 cell, right? And saw what that 6 cell
Mhm.
setup was giving him. Then he put the watt meter on with for the 4 cells setup, and he was getting lackluster performance out of the prop that he gives you for that 16. So he got his prop drawer out and started testing a range of props until he got it right up to what he was getting out of the 6 cell, and that was with like a 1710, and he was getting dang near the same performance that he got out of that 6 cell. Which, if you think about the difference between a 4 or 5,000 milliamp battery 4 cell compared to a 6 cell, that's quite a weight savings. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely going to help, and you're still getting the same performance out of the plane. So looking forward to doing that.
The other answer to your question, Mike, is first of all, Motion is a distributor. They don't really make the airplane. This is another line that they picked up, and so
Oh, I guess when you say it's a motion or seaplane, I just assume that they made it.
no, no,
So
no, no,
so it's not really their plane.
no, and they,
Who made
you
it?
know, uh, what is it, Kinetic or what's the name of the
SkyTech or something, I think it's called.
Oh, SkyTech or something like that.
Kinetic
Because
or
even when the free wing stuff, that's actually Motion will go to free wing and say, "Hey, we want to make this product." But
Yeah.
this company, I think, came to Motion and
Yeah,
said, "Hey,
but
we've
that's a
got some
OEM,
plans."
right? I mean, that's a OEM, right?
Some of them
Freewing makes
are,
it for
yeah,
motion.
they
So
do.
so in that case, that's a motion plane. That makes sense to me. But if it's they're just selling it and they don't really have anything. I
Yeah,
mean,
they have
as
a
a
couple of lines.
distributor, I feel like if you're supporting a plane, you got to have a channel back to the manufacturer to say, hey, our customers are saying this about your plane.
And they
Now
did. This is version 2
yeah,
versus version 1.
sure,
Version 1 had a
sure,
lot of comments. They gave everything in the kit, but you had to assemble everything. And
right.
that's typically not Motion's customer. Motion's customer is a, bind and fly kind of guy or, receiver and battery kind of thing. So the tires were, a little troublesome because you had to assemble these rubber tires where the one that in this kit version 2 it comes with a pump and the tires are assembled, everything's ready to go. The one thing, unfortunately, battery straps are one of those things that different people like different stuff. These particular straps don't loop into each other, they just go over each other, so it fits like an envelope, it just kind of goes like that,
Right,
where
but I
the
mean, in
ones
this
that
case,
I
they could
like
have
they
put
actually go
stops.
through.
But they could put stops in the backspace there so that the battery can't
Yeah,
fly
they
through,
could have
like
done that.
They could,
Absolutely.
but I don't know.
or a
I
strap. I
They
mean,
gotta
think,
wait.
anything.
yeah,
Well,
something.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
I mean, like a strap. It could just be a strap. Like it
yeah,
doesn't have to be. We're not
actually,
talking about a lot of weight here.
no, and actually, Jay and
Whatever
I
it's
figured
using.
a problem out that if you just put a piece of Velcro back there and there's Velcro on your battery, then you can just move it back. It will keep you know, the battery from sliding around. You can put it where you want. The
Oh,
Velcro
so it's
battery for
Jay's
this
fault.
type airplane, yeah, the Velcro battery for this or the Velcro for this battery on this airplane is not. I mean, you can do 3D stuff with it, but it's not a real hard 3D thing where you're going to shuck the battery
Right,
all around.
right,
It
right.
is a big area in there and you can fly, knife edge, but even I will tell you that, I mean, flying with the battery all the way back to the tail, that wasn't as catastrophic, you know, as it could have
As it
been.
can be in some planes.
Right.
Yeah,
I've had an airplane where the battery shot to the back and I did not recover it at all. I
Yeah.
mean, it was already, tail heavy, and then that was just devastating. There's nothing you could
sure.
do.
Yeah, and luckily the
Um,
elevator had a lot of authority. So
yeah, I did readjust those. Jay actually had a high and a low rates, and I was in high rates at the time. So, but the airplane flies great. I really enjoyed it. It was super windy, and kind of made for exciting flight. But I did 3 flights on it, and then we got the battery done. I did a one time around the patch to make sure that the battery didn't move and that it was all trimmed, and then I just handed it to Jay and said, "Here, go to town."
Yep.
So
Yep. No, the plane flies great, and I've been out since Mike was here, and it was actually a calm day, and got out with a buddy of mine, and it was like one of the best days we had at the field since it was so calm, and the plane flew great. And this time I actually got the AS3X. I got that all programmed out and in there, and that helped out a lot. Not so much that that plane needs it. Being with that heavy battery, like I said, the plane still flies heavy, and depending, it will continue. Even though you trim it out, it still will want to drop. It still wants to constantly come down to the ground. Or I mean, the minute you come off the power, it doesn't like the old Fun Cub. Come off the power, do whatever you want. It's still gliding at the same altitude. This thing, you you cease the power, she's coming down. And so having the gyro in there definitely helped that. But that's another reason why I think going to the 4 cells will definitely help with that floatiness that you might feel for a foamy should have. Will have it, even though, like I said, this is a pretty dense plane. It's a pretty big plane, so for the size of it, it's gonna, it can handle the weight. It's just, like I said, flies heavy.
well, the good news is that it flies kind of like one of those huskies. So in the this isn't a cub. A cub is really long. It has a high wing aspect ratio. It's the high wing. The wings are kind of turned up, and when you land a cub, it's just like it just kind of plops on the ground. This one is definitely built as a stall aircraft, a short takeoff and landing, because it comes in at a real nose low angle, and when you round out and flare, it comes to a complete stop. I mean, when I landed we rolled a foot, if that, and you have to be in the power to get it, because you're flaring so hard, you have to hold the power in until you touch down. So it works just like what you see in Valdez on the real aircraft, where they hold that power in there, nose high, and boom, as soon as you pull the power, it plops on the ground. So once we kind of figured that out and we flew it like that, beautiful, flies great, has a good time, and the tires, awesome,
beautiful. Just made our field look
Well,
like
I know we're kind of running out of time here, but I think it's really sounds like you guys had a great time.
We did.
Flying that thing, and I'm jealous.
You don't have to
it was a short stay, unfortunately. I know. Yeah, you could come down too. It was a short stay. I mean, by the time we got finished maiden in it, we jumped in the car, flew back. I jumped in the shower. We had lunch, and jumped in the shower, and then I was headed back to the airport to finish work. But it did work out. We were able to go maiden it, and Jay had. I was excited. I think Jay was excited. It just typical. Things were just behind us the whole time. So, but it did work out.
I'm just glad you have one good flight on it, so I can crash it without
No. Actually, with the new A3 AS3X in there, it should fly even better. We can, when I go down there again, we'll kind of tweak it up and see, kind of get it. And I'm interested for the 4 cell to see how that thing flies.
Yeah, right.
So.
Exactly.
Well, we are running out of time. I'm going to put a plug in for the Model Masters again, right? It's Gunsmoke 2000.
Scale Masters.
Oh, Sky Masters. Yeah. Scale Masters, sorry.
Yep.
And it's
Shanghai
Gunsmoke
effect.
2023. And it is what dates?
March 31st, April 1st.
All right. So it's coming
April
out.
Fools.
So yeah. So
this
actually,
weekend.
I think
we'll be past that.
Yeah.
This weekend.
So.
Yeah.
That's this coming weekend, because we're actually putting this in the can for April.
Yeah.
So it will have been behind us.
Yeah. So the next one will be saying, "Hey, Shannon won." No.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not gonna win. I'm not gonna win anything.
Well,
I'll get like most improved or
there you go. Or newest
guy who showed up unexpectedly.
most spectacular crash.
Most surprised.
A foamy.
We don't
Most
want that
surprised
either.
to have flown.
That's it. We don't want that. All right. Well, we're looking forward to having Shannon as a regular, and we're going to have him on more often. And so we'll hear how this Scale Masters went. And
you've all been warned.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we got to figure out something for Shannon. But anyway, for Michael here in Arizona,
and Jay from the hills of Texas,
and AK Mike in Texas,
Shannon G. NAZ.
There you go.
That's
Shannon.
That's it. Shannon G
right.
and AZ. We like it.
Easy.
All right. We'll see. I do too. All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
So let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.